It's high fission, baby. It's high fission, baby. It's high fission,
Hi, I'm Adeshina Afolayan. I teach philosophy at the University of Ibadan, Nigeria.
Philosophy with respect to film studies or general?
I teach philosophy generally. Specifically, I teach African philosophy.
I heard through the grapevine that you published a book related to Nollywood.
2014, and it's titled Altering Nollywood, and it's an attempt to a preliminary attempt to look at how philosophy relates with Nollywood, with film generally. Yeah.
Are you looking at, is it a biography? Or?
No. It's an experimental work, really. At one level, it's an attempt to see how philosophy could relate with Nollywood. At the second level, it is an attempt to see how the author theory will be brought into relationship with the directors of what I call new Nollywood. Nollywood that is different from the old Nollywood, and commercialism. And at the third level, it is an attempt to experiment with the analysis of one film, one director, and see how that particular film enables us to come to terms with our post-colonial reality in Africa.
Can you suggest, in terms of periodization, between the old Nollywood and the new Nollywood, what dates are we looking at?
Okay, so the usual periodizing for the beginning of Nollywood, even though I disagree with that, is 1992 with Kenneth Nebwe. For the purpose of, we can just take it. But the new Nollywood, I would say, commenced with Tule Kelani, the mainframe film production. And that's around, say, 2000 or 2000. And Tule Kelani is known for good story, especially with the Yoruba slant. Good story that has to do with, national issues, issues of 2005 or so when he started producing. And Tule Kelani is good cinematography.
A more seasoned professional approach.
Yes.
But you said that you disagree. Are you thinking about, would you put Balogun anywhere?
In fact, there is an essay by, there's a guy called Aromire, who is in the Yoruba side of the Nollywood, who has an interview that claims that putting the beginning of Nollywood at 1992 is a fraud, and that Nollywood began with him. I think his claim should also be investigated.
Well, Can you remember where he starts or where he puts Nollywood? Is he associating this with the traveling
theater?
Theater?
No, not really.
He's not going down
actually,
to that.
No, he's not going that far back, no.
Okay.
He's starting with, in fact, he said that the video thing began with him, you know, and therefore if we are dating Nollywood, then it should date from, since we associate the beginning of Nollywood with the experiment that Nollywood did with the whole...
yeah, but that's the 91
yes,
suggestion.
yes. But he's saying that we should pull it back some few more years, 89, 90 or so.
Okay.
You know, and not with Nollywood.
I mean, we could talk about sort of proto Nollywood.
Well,
the foundation,
yes,
inspiration.
Yes.
And although Balogun is, has said some pretty, unflattering things about Nollywood, I think his productions, would inspire. And I would see him, this is just a personal view, I would see him as somehow being part of that sort of proto-Nollywood. Yeah,
Well, if we can actually, that would be a new addition. That should also enable us to begin to rethink the origin of, even if we call it proto.
Have you reflected on gender and Nollywood at any point in time?
Not really, but I know that the issue of gender, I've come across a few essays, about, for instance, there's an essay that is titled Kilani's Women, trying to see, Kilani has been studied, but what is the role of women in his works, and so on. Again, I know there's another study, there are so many studies specifically that are concerned with how women have been downplayed, their role, their significance have been downplayed, especially in those epic movies, and which are actually meant to just display our cultural patriarchal society, without an attempt, which is also what I did in that book, without an attempt to query those films, query the culture, or use cinema as a point of rethinking, our cultural background and so on.
Okay. I know there's in Africa Update, probably 2 years ago, an article looking at some aspect of it.
Okay.
But this is another great research theme. You see, number one, when did Nollywood really start? Different perspectives.
Yes.
Then the gender issue. And I look forward to your book because you talked about the concept of authoring, right?
Authoring Nollywood.
Can you tell us something about that?
Okay, so the author theory is a theory that began with the French scholars who are interested in film. And the thesis is very simple. Now, when you are talking of a film, the making of any film, you consider the director as the most critical element. Why? Because the director is the one that brings all the other elements together in an attempt to project a vision. So the film is not just to make money. The film is to enable the director project a particular vision, and so he knows the particular kind of cinematographer he wants to bring, he knows the particular kind of angle of cinema and so on that he wants to deploy, he knows the particular kind of story he wants to tell, not just any story that makes money, okay? And so, now if you look at, those we can call the old African auteur, who is this one, the father of African cinema? The name just
Usman Sembene.
Usman Sembene. Okay, so if you look at all his films, you know that it is directed towards a particular kind of story, particular angle to colonialism and so on. But now, in the West, it is presumed that the author theory is going out of fashion. Okay. People are celebrating the death of the author, okay, and so on, Roland Barthes and the rest of them, the postmodernists. But my argument is that within the African context, we cannot say that the author is dead. In fact, the author just arrived on the scene.
Right.
Okay, and he has a responsibility within Africa's post-colonial environment to champion certain stories, champion certain vision. And so the essence of that theory in that book is to see how we can inaugurate the beginning of a new Nollywood that would not just be subject to just commercialism and capital. So
I think the postmodernists are way out of line in terms of so many. You know, they say Africa doesn't exist. This doesn't exist.
I agree with you.
So we have to just.
The Gulf War didn't happen. The Holocaust is fake.
You know, everything is never happened. So So I think we just ignore them.
Yes.
And it's nice that you focus on that, and our researchers will take, rally around that. That issue.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite a pleasure, talking to you.
Yes, sir.
And
pleasure.
yes, and I look forward to having your book and having a look at your book and many more on the issue of African cinema.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
It's the Afro Junk. Okay.
Fire deep on the dance.